1953. The soul is one oversized, perfect desire. The mind must be very receptive in order to reach through the cells of the body to that secret chamber where desires are born. Due to the fact that our soul is unfortunately outlined by certain events from the distant past, the mind linked to the body, and the body as a whole to the soul has to make a great effort to understand its magical existence. But this effort is worthwhile, because huge horizons of perfectly beautiful events appear during reflection, which fills the soul with happiness. The happiness of cognition fixes any flaws. You have a receptive mind, enjoy it. Padre Pio's words. Friend in sickness and pain, in good and bad. The only friend doubts lost, misgivings cried. The last tears of failure wiped away, farewell to the heart. With an uncertain thought, bright friend, come back and stroke my face. On all sides stroke. You are the mirror of love, my happiness. 1954. The weakness of man, the weakness of animals, the weakness of the material cosmos is enormous. And life on earth seems to be a moment. This impression is caused by the lack of search for the eternal spirit. The soul must jump over the body it has chosen to continue its difficult journey through the cosmos and feel something more than dying material cells. This is important. For salvation, the battle for souls is through access in knowledge. There is no greater struggle. The struggle to know the true knowledge of life is ongoing. There are roadblocks on all sides. The media, education, and those others are participating in it. 1955. I should be happy to see beauty and good deeds in others. If I act in this way, I will not be harmed in this life, while I will find great happiness in the future. In contrast, I will go astray if I am dissatisfied with the virtues of my fellow human beings. This will make me unhappy and regrettable, and my future life may bring me immeasurable suffering. 1956. Suicide is a consequence of not getting to the truth about life. But not only that, pursuing blindly with the help of biblical lies and their deceitful interpretations forces the human body into mental illness. A body that can't stand the pressure under the ignorance of God, so the soul annihilates the body in a violent way. Mostly the church is to blame for this, which does not preach the truth, but only the Jewish fancies contained in the world's worst book, the Jewish Bible. But it is not only among Christians that suicides take place. Other religions suffer from the same problem. Atheism, too, as a religion of secularism, is committing the same thing. The clay is one. We are all fashioned from it. A bit pessimistic, but the soul must be above human creations, such as the world and religions. Jesus spoke of this. He corrupted his words, and most of them were not written down. 1957. A person who sees nothing but his own pleasures cannot experience full happiness and enlightenment. We all benefit from the energy of the sun, so every person should benefit from the energy of pleasure, but of the highest quality. Spirit is the energy of giving that embraces everyone, but few realize that they walk in this light. Few can see this light and walk in its peace and power. True joy comes from God. He is the all-attraction for all. God attracts the most of all beings. He can unfold and be individually in the form of different forms and bodies, become the greatest pleasure for each individual soul. In Catholic mysticism, this is called unification. But who remembers this today? Certainly not Brussels with its leaders, at least at the moment. 1958. It is impossible to live normally in society, separating from it the culture of kindness and goodness, that is God. Every act of the slightest aggression is against the soul, against God. If a religion or state systems try to play on aggression and violence, this religion is worth nothing and the state will collapse. Nothing but peace and love is worth anything. Love and peace give all the comfort of life. 1959. What use can a sick person have from reading prescriptions? You have to take the pill for it to work. The same is true of personal culture. One has to have a good hand for everyone in order for it to work properly toward reassurance and joy. 1960. The progress of civilization is also a means to know the truth. So let us use these benefits of science and technology, with great respect and dignity. Everything is ultimately the work of the Spirit. So let us open science and progress to heaven, to God, so that full knowledge and full development of consciousness can be fulfilled. The higher the consciousness, the softer and gentler the love. The ideal is yet to come. There is something to know, there is something to enjoy. Knowledge develops fallen souls, if they already understand that for knowledge the second part of knowledge is needed, humility. However, in the end it is not knowledge that determines our holiness, but heartfelt love for love. Total success. Such wonderful activities as mental success are performed by sages with wonderful qualifications. Sages lead conversations empowered by the power of knowledge, and their study touches adoration. They conduct their studies in the benefits of hereafter energy, in spite of the uniqueness of impressions. They are demigods of lectures of humility. They are able to understand the limits of possibilities and turn their bodies into the delights of heaven. Acts of unfancy give them the highest state of satisfaction. They appear as completely subject to the intelligence of love, and their grace creates total attachment to prosperity and wealth. They rule over the world with renunciation of spirit, constantly color their pure invention. 1961. Everyone seeks contentment, a good mood. He uses all his power and consciousness to achieve it. We constantly desire any kind of happiness. If we do nothing in this direction, we will have a rather bad mood. You can always improve your mood with spiritual and material entertainment, which is what they are for. You will buy yourself new shoes, some creation, a better phone, paint your nails, your eye. You'll listen to music. You'll go to the fields, to the woods to talk to nature, go for coffee at a cafe, or pray to God, whom you can't see for now, but you feel Him in your hope. And that makes you feel better. Don't say that you are constantly unwell. Much depends on you alone. You have the power to create heaven for yourself, now in the galaxies, and later in the original life. God has given it to you as a gift for eternity. If you feel bad sometimes, take a ride on a streetcar, for example. Padre Pio's words. 1962. The greatest misfortune for man is disbelief in eternal life, and the lessons one must learn with life to get there. This may sound vaguely modern, but when we look deeply into the truth of this claim, we will see the legitimate greatness of faith. Well, faith obliges one to adopt a system of spiritualization of a person's interior, and we know what perfection of mind and heart means. It is above all dignity and sensitivity of conscience. It is love for people and the world. It is honesty, trust, and all kindness. A spiritualized interior is joyful and spontaneous, yet balanced in every way. A spiritualized interior does not have excessive selfishness. It is free and simple in its directness, like a child. 1963. There is nothing that reason does not teach us about. Reason even teaches about what does not yet exist, but will exist. It makes predictions. Reason teaches faith more than tangible achievements. Reason, or mind if you prefer, is constantly circulating virtually and collecting and sending out into the world information about everything it produces or notices. Reason is a gift from God, but under the conditions of the fallen sky, that is, the material worlds, it often loses its thoughts and covers itself with enormous oblivion. This tendency will someday reverse, especially after the death of the body. In life, one must slowly get used to thinking in such a way that reason comes from God, not from earthly or cosmic scientists. Just because surgeons can touch the brain after opening the skull, and it reacts with different behaviors, that doesn't mean the soul doesn't know what the doctor is doing. Reason is the soul, not the brain. The brain and body is such a small receiver. When something in it breaks down, it interrupts connections to the soul or slows them down a lot. Freedom and bondage to disease also force us to submit to the will of doctors. Most often our freedom is in the hands of others. Though leaders, including religious generals, prime ministers, what set the rules of the game in the state. However, the soul is independent, free from the slightest attachment. We need to notice this in ourselves and talk about it, so that our reason can function freely, and so that it can create true happiness on a heavenly model. 1964. Who lacks love follows to unrest and revolution. Each in his own area, in his own house. 1965. I must never, even at the cost of my own life, abandon a spiritual friend whose wisdom flows from understanding the essence of life, which friend is a great practitioner of the mind of God. 1966. Vigilance means constantly smiling, which comes from God. 1967. Never give up on the spiritual path on culture, because this path is against the galactic stupidity of aliens who cobble us in politics and secret knowledge, corrupted energy, which all scientists and thinkers refer to. In this world, generally everything happens against the will of God, hence our problems. Is this God's intention and will? Meteorites pound the earth, NASA rockets smash ozone, which we need as a shield from the sun's malignant radiation, which burns us and often causes melanoma. Is all this the work of God? Animals, what tear each other apart every millisecond and eat each other, causing suffering and fear? Is this the will of God? Let's notice it. God has nothing to do with it. This world is the product of the fallen angels, their science, genetic testing, their suffering, quantum works, etc. Everything here breaks down and doesn't work quite right, such a system. Padre Pio's words. 1968. What is common truth is generally 90% hypocritical. Let us think independently. May the Spirit of absolute truth enlighten us, here and now, and then. 1969. Avoid situations that you would not want your loved ones to experience. It's a fairly simple law, but it works. Better yet, apply the divine law. Love your neighbor as yourself. This is 100% effective, but a bit more difficult. To have only your family in mind is a little selfish looking. God looks at and loves everyone equally. It's worth reminding ourselves of this, so as not to create a society that sees only the tip of its nose. 1970. Not all choices are accurate that we make on Earth in space. Choose the best. Take care of decent working conditions so you don't have to live with stress and nerves. Nerves mean one thing: you're going the wrong way. Change your job to avoid biting from others. The words of Padre Pio. Stress means your illness, and in sickness it's even your neighbor you don't want to love. The body, as far as possible, needs to be healthy so that the soul has hope and the will to live. So let's take care of health. Let's start with peace of mind. Most diseases are caused by stress. People today are bundles of nerves, and in fact almost all of them are already fit for treatment. Padre Pio's words. That's what he told me at the talks. Feelings. You whom I will never forget, greetings intoxicated with love song, lips full of blue, delicate from inspiration, smile, caress, understanding for free sight. Gentle as a summer phenomenon, I will never forget you. You lend me eternal breaths, fresh as a morning flower. How shall I repay you? With what to repay? I know that in this rate of dawn, anything can happen. The madness of landscapes kissed with respite, in which sense reveal their joy. With what shall I repay? Dance the music with a stomp, dance with a taste of ripening, with the warmth of sweetness. Let my gratitude find vent, let the crushed lawns straighten. Beautiful is the world, beautiful. I do not know what trembles in me more, whether gratitude or adoration or smiles illustrated by dreams. I will never forget it. 1971. Good habits not only give reason for good actions, they give motive for wise pondering. It is hard to imagine that one can meditate without good deeds being involved in the process. A good deed is a guarantee of sincere meditation. Let no one delude themselves into thinking that it is enough to meditate, pray and believe, and everything will do itself. This will certainly not be the case. A good deed releases great energy. Meditation is supposed to lead to perfection of life, and this is not achieved without goodness and charity. Faith, prayer, meditation without good deeds create disharmony. So good habits and culture help to understand faith, prayer, and topics for meditation. Faith, love, and deeds complement each other. Such, then, is the need to create an educational system in the country, where the science of good manners, good habits would be taught. where the knowledge of faith in heaven would be taught, where faith and love would permeate all knowledge. God would be very pleased with this. But no radical associations. Radicalism is bad. Religions as such are bad. They have grown swords and tentacles. Faith is supposed to be like a flower, fragrant and beautiful, without any ideology or theology. Just as love is without theology. God is love, not theology, but rather the very adoring pleasure of being. 1972. To deny oneself means not to think only of oneself. If you see anything, and the mind does not become permanently attached to it, this is called renunciation of self. This does not mean not to love the world, on the contrary. Love is always free, which is why it is so wonderful. It can love everything and everyone. When someone loves truly, he doesn't have to renounce or deny anything. Ego problems exist only in galaxies, which God has to tolerate throughout their existence. Whoever has to renounce himself means that he has not yet reached the right ceiling of free love. Love is something natural to the soul. Its task of happiness is to want, desire, and realize its tales without permanent attachment. There are no permanent qualities in heaven, Padre Pio's words. 1973. I should constantly keep in mind what will be most useful to others. Once I understand this well, I should always be guided by the good of others, in a far-sighted and compassionate way. Love is created together. Love must share, live for others. Even for God it must live and share with Him, as with everyone. Without sharing, thinking about it, there is no union, which is the supreme delight of the soul. The recipient of every joy and delight is God. Even when people physically love each other, they often say out of happiness, "Oh God, how good it feels for me." 1974. Where there is no desire for love from God, its divine qualities in the featureless peace disappears, followed by the beautiful colors of civilization. 1975. When you admire, adore, when you feel peace, beauty, and heartfelt emotion, and it feels so good that it can't get any better, think then still of God. You will find that God is the essence of love, the bridegroom and the bride, that He is the Lord of your every joy. Delight is designed by God. But under galactic conditions, the proportions have been disturbed and the knowledge of God has been destroyed. All the wars on the planets are fought over this very knowledge. Not so much about money and power, but about the knowledge of God. They think that if they renounce God and gain residual knowledge on their own, they will become more free and happy. They don't. All the time in the fallen heaven, that is the cosmos, is about knowledge. Even the dogmas of science and faith have been developed for this purpose, to limit access to the omniscient God. This is why Padre Pio once told me, the more you know, the greater you are. Not in the sense of pride in physics, but in the sense of knowing and participating in the life of the Spirit. Greater opportunities for happiness. It pays off for everyone. 1976. The fact that we can think, feel, enjoy, and cost pleasure, this is all the grace of heaven. No pleasure is the result of our work. It is a function of the soul given by God. Truly God created us, even if we can't see this clearly at present. The aliens can say whatever they want to themselves, that they created us a body, genes, a planet. All this is nothing. All that matters is God. 1977. What does mental illness mean? What does disability mean? Does anyone know the answer to this? There are quite a few versions of the answer. Aliens, angels coming out of heaven, evolution, material genetics, bad research, progress, bad teaching, persuasion of hatred, including religious hatred, bad nutrition, etc. All this adds up to various diseases, and there is not much turning back from it. In fact, it is the soul that destroys life and love. The body is its servant only. The body doesn't understand anything. Only the soul is intelligent, and as it dwarfs horny, it can do harm to others. In the time chain, various diseases appear because of this. They need to be treated as much as possible. The soul expresses through the body. If it is an indisposition, the soul cannot logically communicate its thoughts and opinions to it. And mental illnesses appear. Sometimes they are caused by physical trauma, post-accident, where subenergetic links are broken and the effect is similar. Others are already born with diseases, or they acquire them during life. Overheating the body with emotions can also cause schizophrenia. A confusion of the senses is then created. 1978. When your leg hurts, your arm, your spine, your roots, you turn more readily to the great forces of God to help. And you're more likely to believe that it's not Him who has so battered or punished you. An interesting phenomenon. And when we are reasonably healthy and happy on earth, we forget about God again. This is how it happens. From both attitudes, something good or something bad can be born. That's why we need constant in-depth reflection on life, so that we don't lose sight of the great goal, which is our eternal life. When we get too used to earthly suffering or earthly luxuries, then the next life will not be in heaven, which we have not thought about all our lives, but again on earth, this or another. Personal choice and experience determines this, where we live again after death. So it's better to update and tune your expectations from life, to create turbo dreams that wing the soul to the point where it slowly forgets about the earths and galaxies of suffering, about those terrible labor kolkhozes the universe creates. It's not for us. This is how we should think if we care about a better life after our next death. Let's not keep repeating the same mistakes, because we will prolong this purgatory indefinitely. And for what? When heaven is waiting openly for us. So little is needed to reach heaven, only reflection and love. Of course, it cannot be free love without love. For any love you need. Love, 1979. Looking at a person's life, the thought immediately arises that something is missing. The lack expresses in a simple way. He is constantly chasing something, looking for something, longing for something. In a word, he seeks the realization of himself, that is, happiness. This mechanism is natural. The question remains, what should be done to find this treasure? Through an intensifying barrage of sensations, is he able to find it? Rather not. Even if you had even 100 women at your disposal, you would still not be satisfied in this world. Padre Pio's words. What a man dreams of so much is inside him. The problem is to change the focus of the search. Fullness cannot be found in the external world, because the world rises and falls. It changes. What remains is spirituality, the soul, the eternal self that everyone received as a gift from God. The real world is in the soul, and through the soul, not in the echo, a manifestation of matter created by fallen angels. Everything we long for will ultimately be found in heaven. And there, it is no longer necessary to focus on the interior, but on forms woven with heavenly, eternal matter. The soul needs matter and the world, and such a world is precisely in heaven. Here everything falls, but it nevertheless resembles that world. There is something of it, some remnants of art, joy, beauty. On the other side is the fullness of madness, perfect. There is no boredom there. There is a social life and whatever life one desires, without the slightest harm. And the best thing is that there one is not bored, does not suffer, and never dies again. In a word, the fulfilled hopes of mankind live not die. 1980. Where there is water, there is life in the universe, Padre Pio's words. He also told me, I have already mentioned this, that life in our solar system, in addition to Earth, exists on the moon of Jupiter. As you can see from observations of the Earth, there must be a lot of water on the planet. Almost all of it is floating in water. It is necessary so that there can be an environment for life. Padre Pio added to me that at each sun there are planets and there is life. There are civilizations. 1981. The power of life is hope. If it is lacking, even riches will not give you anything, will not quiet your heart, will not cure your soul of sadness. Without hope, you will desire, but you will never achieve it. With hope you already have, although with your hands you don't yet touch it or walk on it with your feet. We are still talking about life in separation from God, that is, in the galaxies. But with God in heaven, there is no hope, there is the fullness of reality. Earthly hope should be invested as capital of heavenly life. And you can already have this in your vision today. Hope. Every such act of the heart pays off like in the bank. At death it will be like finding it. 1982. Even if you loved the world very sincerely, they can always accuse you of evil in it. Not such angels accuse Jesus, for example. And what can you do about it? Patience and the value of your conscience count. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to stand it. God looks at intentions and not in conscious or unconscious mistakes. If you want good in every way, you are saved, but not yet saved. For salvation you need knowledge and love. 1983. If you can't afford anything, and there are such days, then offer your helplessness to God. Offer for others, such as the poor. With God every gesture counts, even your helplessness. And with others, it can cause resourcefulness. Love thinks unbelievably interesting thoughts and has everyone in mind because love was created for everyone equally like water and air. Love loves to give, so that everyone can taste it. 1984. That's the way it is in this galactic world, that the laws of nature govern you and not you govern them. They are too vast and too powerful for you to master. The elements always win us over. Now the basic question. Why do the elements and us at their epicenter? We consciousness, personality, soul are dependent on the body for life. And as long as you live in the body, free you will never be. So don't chase freedom like a blind man, because you won't fully achieve it anyway. You were sick, someone helped you get well, but what next? A bolt of lightning will crack, and so you're done for. And you still know nothing about God's world. You need to rethink everything from the ground up. From where, why, and where you are going. Then you have a chance to enter the return path to the original heaven. And then, there you will find yourself for eternity. 1985. If you knew how to extinguish some ego in yourself, you would be a happy man. As long as you are its slave, you cannot be happy. You will rebel all the time. Well, some of this rebellion is necessary, because we live in a world of struggle for existence. And anyway, let's let go of this ego because it obscures the rays of love. And sometimes from love, it can generate hatred. So let's gently handle the ego, which every soul needs, but let it nevertheless be understanding and holy. However, sometimes Padre Pio thanked me for rebelling. Dialectics balance. 1986. Time is given to you to find God with the help of your body endowed with intellect. Although the assumptions of the aliens of life on various Earths are the opposite, that you never find him. That is why there are such serious difficulties with faith, atheism, education, with everything. But God by some miracle drilled a hole in our souls and let some oil in. We began to think deeper than aliens with great knowledge and power. We wonder honestly about life and God. They have not yet, but their fate will be similar to ours, because they are our brothers, sisters, and lovers from the original heaven. We have known each other. We currently hate each other. As long as we have some oil from God, let's use the time and move consciously closer to heaven. 1987. You need the most patience with your own family. This is especially true for your loving children, who react differently than adults. You already know the world. They are just getting to know it. A big book of great adventures ahead of them. And for us, you could say, the book has already closed. But it is necessary not to fall into sadness. All the libraries of heavenly adventures will soon open before us. Just a little more. Let them nail those 4 nails, and the jumping around left and right, all over heaven, will only begin. Let the young ones tire themselves out still on earth. Eventually they will follow in our footsteps anyway. So there's no need to worry in advance. There, in heaven, no one marries or is married. These words of Jesus are very optimistic and promising. Finally, free love, in all the free, attractive heaven. 1988. No job will give you the serenity and joy you expect except one, and that is dreams, spiritual experiences. A realm full of perpetual colors, energy, and shapes. In the galaxy and time, everything will tire you out, bore you, and enslave you. Such is the stubborn mystery of matter. It is not worth it for a moment's pleasure to sacrifice eternal pleasure. Padre Pio's words. What matters most are the amusements given freely from God and His heaven, which He created for us. They are still waiting for us there. Beautiful palaces are prepared, just enter and enjoy. 1989. A true, normal, and humble Catholic should earn his own way, dress well so as not to walk around sloppily. And if he finishes the right amount of years, he should get married. Unless one has other plans for karma or mission. A true Catholic should take care of his bodily and mental health, which affects the quality of genes passed on to future generations. It is essential to keep this in mind. A sick body, weakened by poor nutrition, dirt, mental depression, alcoholism, and other weaknesses, what can they pass on to the future? Rather little. Work begun, like the Olympics, conquering the world like the joy of play, the work begun. But who knows all these currents? Who knows how to look at the golden spot? Who wants to drink a cup of justice? Who dares to bounce off the bottom once again? 1990. You won't get wisdom with your hands. Neurons you will not move with your hands. In penetrating your memory, you will not use your hands. Wisdom is a search with thoughts. Hands are for eating and petting, not for thinking. Although sometimes they come in handy for memory, to open an interesting book. Memory is a cosmic invention of the team activity of the body's senses. When you overcome memory, everything then stands open before you. Secrets disappear, magnificent beings appear who lead you to the chambers of eternal delight and knowledge. A constant game of love follows. All of heaven you will have at your disposal. Padre Pio's words. Of course, the knowledge that Padre Pio imparted to us is vastly different from that contained in the thousands of books about him when he lived on earth. In those books, nothing came to light, and no knowledge from heaven got through. Ordinary church books. I read almost all of them about Padre Pio, just to find something there from the higher realms. Nothing. A huge difference. Padre Pio, on the other hand, knew how to adapt to the consciousness of the interlocutor. When he saw that the person could not understand more, he never spoke of new knowledge from heaven. Everything remained ecclesiastical. The vast majority of those talking to Padre Pio knew nothing. Padre respected the ignorance of others. He descended to their mental level. What the Church released after his death and during Padre Pio's lifetime is only a tiny glimmer of knowledge. It still remains a mystery to the Church who Padre Pio really was, what mission he was supposed to fulfill, and what mission he still fulfills, and possibly his heirs, who received the knowledge of this knowledge from the hereafter, and what mission do they have to fulfill? 1991. A strange relationship, although it shouldn't be so. When you are suffering, you are closer to the Spirit than when you are not suffering. But this is not always true. It is often the case anyway, which is basically equivalent, that sometimes happiness will carry you to heaven more than some suffering. This is a fact. Pleasure resembles heavenly delight, which has nothing to do with suffering. On the earths of the cosmos, this is very different. We have to determine for ourselves when we suffer and when we go crazy with happiness. Checkmate. One has to know how to play in order not to be fooled by the manipulation of suffering or fawning joy. 1992. It is said that love is blind. This is not true. She is blind where there is no cognition. She can indeed deceive a person. True love knows a lot, and you can trust that you will not be harmed. God does not hurt anyone. As a human being, you will probably be hurt more than once, but as a soul, an angel, you will always be faithful to God's love, because you have it written into the basis of being. The soul can be soiled, Padre Pio's words, and then a soul cleansing clinic is needed. It is sincere love, in which virtue and goodness are its structural energy, and suffering, with the help of which you can pay off debts incurred. She renews and heals the soul. It prepares it for the return to eternal and fantastic life. 1993. Faithfulness to God is about constantly remembering Him. It is not a matter of saying prayers, but it is more than that. Yes, prayers help, especially the two from heaven, Our Father, and the Hail Mary. They have been slightly modified today, but their spiritual power has remained. Once a day, these prayers should be said. They wing us and put us in a positive attitude to life. Punctuality does not play any role. The most important thing is our heart, trusting and joyful. Trust even if bombs were beating next to you, Padre Pio's words. With this we show class before God. So what if they kill us? After all, we all, as former angels, caused all this commotion with harm and death. So we live in the world we designed for ourselves. We can't put the blame on anyone, only on ourselves. Therefore, the situation should be turned around. Try to fix the world, tear it away from evil, save it. Create beautiful fairy tales with our thoughts, like Jesus. And maybe we will regain peace. To save, that is, concretely, to give as much love as possible around and tell about things not created. In heaven there are no such problems anymore. There Baja herself, association of suffering. Something like longing in the subject of variety. Something like music between two people talk about the origins of the art of happiness. The more difficult varieties hurt in the graphics of love and like stupid orders. The rational heart rebels. Why am I looking for a way? I, the man of social triumphs, every month, all year, receives systematically presentations of suffering. How does this road conceived? 1994. If you are sick with doubt, cure yourself of it. The only cure is to love your neighbor and reflect deeply on the meaning of life. When you start loving and fulfilling at least small gestures towards your neighbor, you will stop doubting. You don't love, therefore you don't like anything, and you are not attracted to anything. Those who do not love are inclined to total criticism of everything and everyone. You like to be nosy, biting, negatively analytical all the time and play the bad omen, psychologist. Love is always appealing and flirtatious in its beauty, gentleness, sincerity, and simplicity. Jesus, the great thinker from heaven, talked about such love. 1995. Some people say they don't know the way, they don't know which direction to go, which options to choose, what to follow, whom to trust. Nonsense, pride and laziness to the power. It is known what belongs. It is known who is consciousness and desire. You alone. You are the greatest value in this world, because you have the ability to exist and think. Every small child knows this. Why weave such nonsense at all? Through yourself, your feelings, desires and longings, through freedom, playing with life, you will find eternal mooring. 1996. The practical life of the soul in the body, its development, comes down to sincere intention and the practice of love. Our mind should spark, give curiosity, interest, not only in earthly matters, but also in slightly higher things. The soul suffocates when it thinks only materially. It must have higher dreams. Then it begins to be joyful and happy. 1997. Happiness is among us, but only in the vision of our consciousness about the original heaven. Only thought, vision and feeling are heaven, and on earth rather unreal. The vision is there, but that does not mean it is realized. It is possible to taste a little of this heaven on earth as well, after all. Earth is already a vestibule of heaven, Padre Pio's words, partly in the body and partly in consciousness, to the extent that we consciously develop it. There is something of heaven on earth, Padre Pio's words. 1998. What you have is spoiled by the lack of rays of the perfect light of wisdom and divine love. This has been a problem for us for millions of years, for many thousands of incarnations and attempts to undertake the school of salvation. We have failed again and again, until now, when we are once again suffering in lame, infirm, flightless bodies. When will we finally change our view on this subject? On thought alone depends our salvation. In what way you think, there you are. A simple principle of freedom. You want it on earth? You are on earth, and you feel your ancient breath. 1999. Everything is corrupted by the science of the cosmos detached from God. Whatever you touch, the vibration in that thing will change, and eventually it will stop functioning properly. One of these negative vibrations is aging, disease, and death. Connection to God, well, that in a secular state, and it should remain that way. Heal the spirit and the body, everything possible. Have the best intentions towards everything. They most correct the biocurrents in the earthly system of life. The best system is the system of love, Padre Pio's words. 2000. God doesn't impose anything or even can't because he has promised everyone freedom, Padre Pio's words. Besides, he doesn't feel peculiar here. He runs away from places where there are brawls, unrest, fear and shouting. Yes, he sympathizes, but this is not his life. This is the life, full of fear and death created by his children. And God laments what has happened. True heaven will never be heaven as long as his children in the galaxies hate each other, persecute and kill each other. Padre Pio's words. Only when the last angel wises up and walks away from his failed cosmic works and enters heaven will breathe and be normal already. Also words from conversations with Padre Pio. This will certainly happen. God and his loving entourage is working on it all the time. I might add the words of Padre Pio. God created heaven only once. He has created nothing until now. Then he created an innumerable number of free consciousnesses to enjoy and love each other, to experience delight like him. He created once and a limited number of these beings. We today call them angels. A small part of them took a chance and left, creating for themselves a new heaven, or a very limited cosmos. We, as humans, count ourselves among these angels, which have departed. Those who already understand this know that there is much to apologize and give thanks for. God was the first to give a hand of agreement as a parent. He did not leave us to our fate, the words of Padre Pio. He tries various means to move us, to make us realize that he loves us and desires our return. So let us return. Let's think about this return, day and night. There are such beautiful, tangible tales out there, and here we continue to agonize. Let's notice. When we talk about beautiful love, everyone repeats, on earth it's unreal. And they are right. But in heaven everything is real, because it is a fairy tale that we can experience as we please. It is 100% free, intimate, deep and available to all celestials. We are in fact celestials, but today our memory has shortened. We don't remember that we come from heaven. The influence behind the bad memory is all sorts. Among others, poisoned environment, water, air, food. This is what Padre Pio often spoke to me about. 2001. There is a lot of different focus among people, but it is not such that it can save you from suffering in the future. We concentrate strength to fight dishonesty, to work, study, etc. And even so, heaven will not be here after all. Here it is about focusing spiritual forces, which are a source of joy, hope, and union with God. There is no such focus at all. It turns out that we have fallen into the civilization trap of lack of spirit, lack of even hope. We have become a cog in the machine of raising civilization technology. This is not enough to make our fondest dreams and fairy tales come true. 2002. Being lost in this life comes from a lack of reflection, pondering the world, life, personal experiences, on what they are and why they are there at all. Only analysis of these phenomena produces a field of goodness and nobility. Without reflection, love on earth ceases to be the love it is all about. Reflective love. Thoughtlessness is good at a certain level of thinking. Thoughtlessness is lovely and occurs at a certain point, but already based on vast knowledge and experience from the past. Reality without reflection does not sanctify a person. Even then, if we were of high culture and very rich, everybody that is born here must die, Padre Pio's words. That is why the direction of eternity is for our soul mind, so very important. 2003. The rule is, you stop pursuing your soul, then you will stop thinking about God. Without ideal thoughts, you'll get tired of the vision of illusory happiness on earth, because where would that happiness take you anyway? To the grave. Now at the stage of humanity, we deserve something better than the decay of our body. We have the rump of eternal thinking. This is where we need to start and focus on. Then we will discover the eternal elements of existence that have been perfidiously covered up and partly corrupted for us. All who are born on earth are born with a blemish on their souls. Padre Pio's words. We need to repair ourselves, patch up the defects of the soul, recover the prototype, the pattern of love and eternity. Just as we need to restore the pattern of the water we drink every day. And we know that the structure of water, by atomic explosions in the past, and all other weapons of the present, by chemistry, is broken and damaged. 2004. Neither satellite communications nor fiber optics will ever connect us to the spiritual world. These are not the links, they are too archaic, and besides, they are not suitable for contact with heaven at all. You can connect with God with your own spontaneous thought and feeling. And this is what we mostly avoid, especially educated souls in this world. A simple man can love God, while a learned man always has a but, and most often does not believe. He prefers tangible human models and to give for materialistic civilization, whose end is always known what it is. Menel, poor beggar, can more quickly find himself in heaven than any ordinary person, indoctrinated with human science. Spirituality is not clear-cut, as if spiritualists or successful people would like to perceive it. God has different paths than man, than the angels, what left heaven and impale themselves on their own problems. It may sound strange, learning exalts and generates almost always pride, and drunkenness humiliates. Collapses the soul falls, and most often teaches great humility. Does this mean that we should drink and not learn? No. It is best to see everything and learn virtues for a good life. For a good life there is a reward in heaven. Padre Pio's words. 2005. In the galaxies, everything fails over time. Such is our failed system of acquiring independent energy in opposition to God himself. So everything breaks down and decays over time except the consciousness that God has invested in us. Although it too can shrink, dwarf, if it stops loving. For the fuel for the perpetual motion machine of life ceases to be love. 2006. God is love and the soul identically so. If the soul betrays love, that is, it does not want to be good and kind to all celestials and earthlings. It becomes completely stupid and begins to engage in scientific experiments in the cosmos, creating everything against God, even as it will claim that it is doing it for him. Such a little spiritual schizophrenia, which has grown a lot over the time of the existence of the cosmos. 2007. This is the downfall of souls. They have abandoned love, and especially humility. So there is nothing to put your trust in anything in the star systems. Here everything is just a shadow of happiness. True happiness is in another world, with God. On him we can count, but first we need to unravel the truth about God. Because so far the entire scientific universe spits on God, not only on our earth, blaming him for the downfall of life. And this is untrue. And the lie by space engineers and geneticists that modern technologies will smother our hearts and give us idyllic happiness is a misunderstanding. In the Milky Way, and not only in the Milky Way, everything ends and everyone dies on his own cross. But the Goebbels lie, a lie repeated 1,000 times becomes the truth, is spreading throughout the material heavens. God is innocent. God must not be denigrated and made a victim or an infirmity of him. It is necessary to also find justification for him before oneself and before others. God has given us complete freedom and he keeps his word. Padre Pio's words. 2008. The hubris of space civilizations is greater than the galaxies they have created. And they are huge, almost reaching infinity. How do we get out of this now? Jesus illuminated these issues for us a little. But even his true ideas were hypocritical. He was not given a voice, which is why he didn't even write anything himself. Often he had to flee from the Jews from village to village. Padre Pio's words. And what was written about him later, 70 years later, is almost all falsehoods. And to say that the Holy Spirit inspired the evangelical writers, this is already the apogee of arrogance and denigration of God. It is quite different. Someday you will find out who Jesus really was. Padre Pio's words to me from years ago, when I still considered Jesus to be God, as the church preached. There are such lands. There are such lands, plains, lakes, forests, perfect animals where everything is as we desire according to our own impulse of beauty, where freedom is greater than chains of galaxies, and smiles like fertile oranges. There are such lands in the sleep of our dreams, With a different feeling come vibrations and bursts the sad space of life. You ask, where are these lands? There are for sure. You think about them every day. You desire them every moment. You look for them in the store windows, in the fashion house, and at the peaceful lake. Your lips speak of them. Your arms embrace them. In every season you sway them with poetry and greenery. They are very close. Just right in heaven. 2009. Without striving for adventures with the higher world, without convincing feelings for God in this world, life will be difficult, and it will be hard to survive peacefully on earth. Well, and the basis. You need to remember in your heart God, who is love and does not harm anyone. Because some people have created for themselves a political, earthly God, which ruins everything and everyone. This cannot be the true God. This is something to watch out for. Wars, blowing people up, murders testify that someone has confused gods. Inattention, a moment is enough to do this and get confused. Power, nationalism, even religion, certainty of own ego territory foster such mistakes. Sometimes these are conscious choices and sometimes not. Those who have sincere attention directed to charity should never make a mistake. But how to be good here? Goodness the most difficult and at the same time the most joyful task. Even when you smile, you sow goodness. You don't have to be a scientist, a professor, a talented person, a soul with a young body, a director, a teacher, a clergyman, to be able to smile at others from the heart. This can be done easily by anyone. Behind a sincere smile, there is always a good intention and good deeds. 2010. The powers of progress also include making proposals and taking various initiatives. Matters related to the development and dissemination of the unified principle of striving for the spiritualization of the human person are among those that are easily overlooked. No one likes to play with invisible eyes. One does not want to approach life with faith. After all, whatever you do, you have to believe anyway. You have to believe in the effect you intend to get. You still believe others, don't you? Even machines and equipment you believe will not fail you. Believing in God is human nature, although through scientism and education, we do a lot to avoid and deny the natural belief in God. Basically, because everything on our planet breaks down and destroys, as Padre Pio says, that's why it's easier for us to believe in God than for other civilizations in galaxies, where technology is at a high level. 2011. In the world of transcendence, where the heart and mind no longer derive material knowledge, there is no faith. There is spiritual knowledge, openness, love and happiness obvious. So seek the kind of knowledge that will take you there through the heart and good mind. This is the true plan for sustainable development, the true economic plan for your desires, timeless expectations, beyond structural materially. Let the search for this substance of eternal life be your economic committee, a heavenly business in which you earn with feelings of love and share its virtues of happiness with all perfect angels. On earth there are only the beginnings of this. Padre Pio's words. All the power you have over yourself, over your inner spiritual economy, should focus on this, so that you are satisfied with the plans you have made for your eternal happiness. It is worthwhile to organize and direct your inner state in such a way that you and all your inhabitants will gush with love, be happy and satisfied. 2012. Those who live with a lack of faith, that is, a lack of potential knowledge, have a purely existential problem. An internal problem. Everything we live by comes from within us, not from outside. External impulses act only on the pupil of our interior, and our spirit wants this or that. Everything is done in our inner sensitivity, consciousness, compilation of desires, independent of the world. Our inner heaven decides everything. About the whole world of sensations and even how photons, neurons, quanta, arms, legs, and technology should listen to us. And even the galaxies. Water also reacts to our thoughts. 2013. They all beg secretly, intimately, secretly, and openly for kisses of the soul's pleasure. They want to experience the ultimate reality of beauty. They wish to declare that they are similar to the longings of divine lovers. 2014. In the end, however, it was God, through the hands of others, who gave us bodily life on this planet. He equipped it with all the necessary goods and possibilities to equip it magnificently. Well, but man does not want to live in accordance with the law of love. This comes from the fact that, having free will, he consciously forgets about God, who, as we can see, does not want to impose himself on anyone. If we knew how to behave like God, how much peace, reliable spiritual and material comfort would be here then. And then eternal life, 2015, to go beyond the bubble of space to get to heaven is not easy. One has to know the codes, and they are gained with a pure heart and a beautiful mind. The virtues of noble conduct, 2016. He who sets his mind in terms of unity or multiplicity does not reject diversity. At the same time, he has the opportunity to enter the material world, seeking adventures in it to his liking. He likes the non-ideal world so much that he would like to live in it for a very long time and strives to do so. Therefore, he lives in it almost indefinitely, life after life, until he realizes that something is wrong. And he will realize that he is walking around in a raging fire with his eyes open. Who could be more deserving of compassion? He learned the secret and wondered where he lives. In Heaven Lost, 2017. It cannot be denied that man, by achieving progress in culture and technology, has turned a little away from God. An undeniable fact. Why is this the case? The cosmos is a mere shadow, a faint reflection of the original. We live in this reflection, casting shadows. A lot of fear and anxiety. 2018. This is life on non-rare planets, cool on the one hand and disastrous on the other. Proper discernment. To know the Lord and possess the correct discernment of experiences is not easy, especially for beginners. The probabilities of events are indescribable to us, and with no techniques it is impossible to predict their results. Lord, people of society in general attach little importance to the increasing radiation of evil energies and inclinations without drawing real conclusions broad in wisdom and love. They become closer and closer to being attached to reality, Lord. And yet, there is no greater torment than the effort to find the truth. You said, "Seek and you shall find." Will laziness allow us to find happiness? Give me the desire to search. 2019. Consciousness set on a wave of learning about all things in isolation from God is troublesome, if not impossible. After all, we come to know through the consciousness we have received from God. Whatever we do with our soul, body, mind, everything will be the result of the divine creative act of our will, desires and needs for beauty. However, there is one more thing. After coming out of heaven as angels, we do not always do so to create love and harmony. That is, we do not always fulfill the will of God. We sometimes grasp at risky moves against love and the common good. 2020. Scientists have gleefully disdained the truth emerging from faith. Materialistic patterns of thinking have thrust them into the apparatus of newly invented ideologies backed by imprecise glass and eye. Philosophical speculations, not listening for a penny to the God in their hearts, who gave them such wonderful possibilities. Free will, God's greatest miracle, plunged their souls into unhumility because they wanted it that way. And this spoils for them, and those around them, the harmony and charm of existence. 2021. On our earth, in the galaxies, only souls with a blemish are born, emptied of knowledge and good heart. The exceptions are Jesus and Mary. They came down from heaven as angels who never left God, to create alternative heavens, the cosmos. That's what Padre Pio told me. They came down here to help their colleagues understand what it is to disentangle themselves from these unfortunate decisions. As humans, we are so degraded that we know nothing, and life can go on for many without meaning or purpose. And this is generally the case. Jesus brought the knowledge of how to get out of this vicious circle. Not only Jesus, but Buddha, Krishna, and other gentle and wise souls. Salvation goes through a good heart and a receptive mind. There is no other way. The way is humility, the gate of opening doing good, happiness, knowledge, and love. 2022. We will experience the full comfort of salvation only after the death of our body, which focuses little light with low sensation. The knowledge of Jesus helps actually saves. Whoever takes advantage of it will not regret it. He will no longer have to be born again, mature, grow old and die, repeating these cycles ad infinitum. This knowledge interrupts birth so that he can enjoy true eternal life in heaven again. This is what true camaraderie is all about. Jesus also said an interesting thing, which amazes you, how much power knowledge and the word have. You are already pure because of the word I spoke to you. With the word, he set their level of understanding, sensitized their conscience, and roused them to go up the mountain. Jesus, as our fellow man, did not forget us. He came to our aid. He stripped himself of all the deity he had in heaven and became an animal like us, said Padre Pio. What courage and friendship love. Such friends are worth having, which in difficult moments will help in our matrix for millions of years, which has not yet gained the final result in the form of a spiritual body, a luminous body, eternal life. 2023. The Church's narrative about the Son of the Father as produced by the Bible is not correct, because saviors from heaven have already come to earth from its beginning, others like Jesus. Jesus has also already been here a few times, not only 2,000 years ago, but this has already been forgotten. And they didn't help everyone. Jesus has also been incarnated on other planets to muddle the consciousness of low souls and rulers of the cosmos. This is what V1E20, to whom Padre Pio sent me, told me. God has not and will not leave anyone to die, whether now or billions of years ago, not only in our galaxy, but in all of them. After all, they are his children, endowed with free will. Through this free will, unfortunately, it is sometimes difficult to change own mind, own view. In the present time, two angels came to us, friends, Jesus and Mary. Let us respect this. Let's look for the knowledge they left, rather outside the Bible. You can sense it internally. It is written in the memory of nature, in the water. She sleeps in the Vatican archives, to which she has no access, not even the clergy. One could find a few sentences of this knowledge. That's why Padre Pio once told me that there is no more spiritual knowledge in Catholicism. There is still some left in Hinduism. Driven by love, thy spirit, driven by ever-widening love, embraces ever-widening plains. In love, thy nobility grows all things you feel the content of the clump together, and atoms you see agonizingly. Your spirit has entered the covenant enchanted with freedom, still running with all its nature shouting love. You are entering primary spaces. When all nature is achieved, you will rest. Then the iron law will give way. Out of torment will be born a ray that will bring delight in excess 2024. The earth, no matter how technically advanced, will nevertheless remain a great limitation for man. Just like the soul's bodily shell or physical body, we have lost volatility in smells, the sparkle in our eyes and love. But everything is ahead of us. Faith and hope will repair our love and personal transcendence. An enchantment we will regain, with which the whole heaven is playing. On earth, there are sometimes glimpses of it. There, without limitation, the whole heaven is at your disposal. Padre Pio's words. 2025. False is the progress where only material thoughts dominate, where historical research seeks only the history of the temporal world, and where economics takes away our time for the spirit. And inevitably, we become detached from a real appreciation of what the meaning of life on earth really is. 2026. The essential feature of our earthly progress is temporary, and there is nothing we can do about it. Everything breaks down here. Such a cosmic system, a deliberate game of fallen angels. God created for us heaven permanent and beautiful, indefinitely. And the principle, there nothing spoils. And the earth or other similar earths? Whoever finds out why this is so is lucky. The doubts that tug at us every day will be dispelled. 2027. The mind, the intellect, and the formed contents of the mind are reality. 2028. All technical means are to serve the growth of civilization and culture. It is important to know that the application of anything in this world can also have lamentable consequences if we do not do it with love for God and neighbor. Even drinking water can be poison when we have the wrong attitude toward it. It also needs to be drunk in small sips and turn food harder with your teeth into mush. These are the principles of healthy eating. Distortions come from the very reason that we don't try to do our jobs with a feeling of love, and we only see our partisan, personal interests. For sustaining the life of fallen civilizations in the cosmos, these may be good, but for obtaining eternal life and heaven of delight, they are not beneficial. Only love gives heaven, ego gives hell. This even a young person notices. Advanced intellectuals, politicians and philosophers, even artists, have already stopped seeing this. They smell only the smell of dollars under their noses, and this plunges them to hell in human and angelic relations. 2029. Do I understand passion correctly? Passion is not only kissing, but also the desire to know oneself and the world. Striving also for satisfaction at the level of transcendental knowledge is called passion. Because in the end, what does passion lead to? To love. Even evil can lead a person to God, let alone sweet passion, which is inherently good. 2030. I once asked Padre Pio if he could see my neurons and associated thoughts. He replied that, "Yes, I see and I hold your soul in my hands. Of course, these hands symbolic. It's more about care." Another time he said, "Every day I am in your room." He promised help in writing this message. I point out that my conversations began long after Padre Pio's death. Others talked from the beginning, when he was still alive. He was staying simultaneously in San Giovanni Rotondo and in Nowa Huta near Krakow. I asked him how it happens. He replied that the soul can split. 2031. Apathetic states are induced by a false image of happiness. It is good for you to know this. You will never achieve happiness on earth, because all so-called earthly happiness is fragmentary and transient. To get high on earthly hope is frivolous. At some point, everything must come to an end. Happiness must be settled in heaven. Then we will shake off, while still living here, something beyond. Then human happiness will also benefit a lot from it. 2032. Beauty lies not in questions and struggle, but in love and trust. Even in heaven we have to trust, because God has established it for us and trust that we will not leave it, that we will be happy there. And at least some gratitude is due to Him. And today, unfortunately, we are not in heaven. Our will decided about it, but we went to the sliver. Did we want even more beautiful than in heaven? What imagination has God given am God that we even desire more than He can give? Wonderful this God of ours. He has not limited us in anything. Isn't our soul wonderful? But we have failed. We have collapsed our happiness. We live life after life and keep forgetting who we are. This is the drama. In the cosmos, we control each other with science, books, philosophy, religion, politics, technology, and pharmaceuticals. Misunderstandings alone. We didn't want it that way, but it happened. That's why we have to get out of it somehow, so that it will be better for everyone in the future. Let's think about returning to heaven, rather than living in material galaxies where there is not a second of peace and rest. We have created a labor kolkhoz, not a lovely alternative heaven. It turns out that by detaching ourselves from God, we lose our lives and turn the will to love into strife and jealousy. The cosmos and the earth is a labor kolkhoz, Padre Pio's words. 2033. The aliens have made almost everyone dependent on the DNA code. They have withdrawn our soul in favor of a biological brain and senses. Let us recall this moment. Let's rebuild our position necessarily. After all, our miraculous consciousness was begotten by our most wonderful God. Why don't we feel it yet? We have eyes and we can't see, we have ears and we can't hear. Jesus was a super philosopher. He is a great scientist and mystic of universal good. He set a great example of how to defeat the fallen philosophers and scientists of the cosmos, fallen angels, whose careers ended in the manipulation of life. And so unsuccessful anyway, shocking with its sufferings. 2034. Without compromise, only aggression and wars await us. Jesus forgave everything to everyone, sat down with tax collectors, sinners, ate and drank with them. Mercy towards others and oneself is important. Truth is not so important. History is non-stop hypocritical anyway. All that matters is a good heart wrapped in tolerance and love. It is the most important truth for us at this time. The whole truth about God and His cosmic children, none of the people know fully. But love and tolerance, we know immediately, because it is impossible to live without them. And she is the most important. If God were not tolerant and loving, He would have destroyed this evil world, full of wars, hatred and fighting over illusory beliefs, long ago. God gave the first hand and forgave everything to everyone. Padre Pio's words. He further added that tolerance is also love. 2035. None of the creatures have deciphered the question why. All this exists. What in the past, now and what will be in the future, and what is beyond time and material space. Neither science nor faith explains it in any way. Faith is as if only knowledge in ignorance, and knowledge as if in the spontaneous ignorance of faith. The angel of light, when he asked this question, deleted his humility and created a failed cosmos. He was not able to find out why God is God, why He arranged heavenly happiness in such a way and not otherwise. With such a question we want to match God. Is it possible to do so? Do you have eternal happiness, or is that not enough for you? Do you have to ask for everything? Trust the wisest God that He wanted, and still wants only happiness for His children. Why is a satanic question, Padre Pio told me. 2036, God never takes revenge. God is perfect. Revenge was invented by angels, children of God, what left their parent, almost forever. They created a utopian independent cosmos, and they further realized this hatred in people, ancient angels. It is necessary to defend against this by perfecting own inner self. The idea of salvation, in the invigorating realm of time forms, the complex wholeness of the spirit original, appears. Nervous relationships cannot withstand this experience. So it becomes a way of neural thinking universal. Power in the course of its ways does not have incomprehensible layers. However, incomprehensible to people of a certain developmental stage. The moment of liberation is just an exchange of worlds. But is it already salvation? Conscious entities are not aware of everything. Hence the points of disagreement of reason. Empirical, no, is a mystery unexplored, but only until the point of salvation. There the atoms of mysteries are solved. 2037. Life in the galaxies is not to get by, but to be saved. Padre Pio's words. Cosmists have forgotten this so easily. Well, they are agonizing in labor kolkhozes, in the torment of energy life and all other life. Sad to say, but we too are in this kolkhoz. 2038. Because of the matrices of life and death. In this state we are in complete ignorance, immersing our mind in a vast ocean of manipulation of the codes of our lives. Wealth of all kinds is completely free with God, and we combine with the galaxies that they are supposedly heaven and eternal life for us. This is the deception that the philosopher, mystic, man of good change Jesus spoke about, and He offered to save ourselves from it. 2039. God distributes to everyone as much as He wants. That's where your work, your intellectual effort, the labor of your hands doesn't count. That's what you do for yourself. What matters is worship and thanksgiving. And anyway, God doesn't need you to worship Him. He is self-sufficient. But He allows it to be done for the inflammation of love and the delight of the soul. And because we love to adore goodness and beauty, we do it willingly. And we have wonderful experiences because of it, even in our village of earth. Proof evidence rarely appears with which to defend without argument that which has the best value. There is a notion that fragments of being flow along the rivers of wide interest to the bottom of the ocean of uniqueness. But is this really the case? Capable of sacrifice idealist serves the prototypes of the harvest of life. With lofty principles runs through the magnetism of everyday life and is believed to be in the leading accent of wisdom terms from the sun of gold to internal conflicts. Teaching laboratories are still looking for the right role in the methodology of education. Attempts are being made to define problems, to solve them rationally. but the popular uproar has its axis and awaits the future for a better day. However, the hope of the old teaching systems can still accomplish much in general 2040. A person has the right to be tired, even drunk sometimes. How much work everything takes to get through a day. Washing socks, washing panties, those sanitary pads, those nails, painting the body, eyebrows, eyelashes, those moods, joys and angers, eating. Fans when it's hot outside, radiators when it's cold, gadgets from sex shops to please the partner. All this is time-consuming and suffering. Everything has to be repaired every now and then because it breaks. You don't watch the soup, it boils over and floods the burner. Gas escapes and boom. In the new stoves this has already been mastered. You hit a nail in the board, the saw to be replaced. You forget to gas up the car, stand at a street intersection and a fine, and even potentially an accident. A strange system of existence. Not everyone can withstand such stress. It's further compounded when he's alone because his wife has died or another divorce. Kids gone crazy, gone away, loans, poor health, unwillingness to live. There are also those who reach for the cord, to end it once and for all. This is how it happens. Heaven on earth. Jesus spoke and warned what the danger was of living in a material body, in this kolkhoz, as Padre Pio calls it. But no one listens to him to this day. Not even the church. He prefers all sorts of temples, and the deserts of delicious worship for hermetic, in-depth views, liturgy, and gilded temple walls. This is the reality we live in. The soul cries out for something greater than physical life. For true delight, where heavenly pleasures are the muse of eternal fun. Here we have only second substitutes that we can use to remember God. It's all up to us, not the church, because we are the individual eternal temple. The church is just one simple primitive rule in our existence, though better than militant atheism. Jesus did not build a single church, Padre Pio's words. 2041. I don't know what love is, but nevertheless, I love everything and everyone. Isn't love some kind of frenzy of good humor, goodness, and pleasure? Jesus compared the kingdom of heaven to a wedding feast. There must be something of that atmosphere. 2042. Technology and science is a material vision of happiness in the glory of suffering and death. Everything in this world tends toward decay, destruction, the decomposition of chemical compounds, ultimately an unpleasant odor for humans, from the human body. Only the soul does not succumb to these processes. But the senses blind it. The body's chemistry cuts off the soul. That's why almost no one believes in it. 2043. You don't necessarily have to overcome and fight for everything to have the satisfaction of overcoming pain, an uphill road, etc. No, that's not necessary because whatever you do always binds us to this world, subconsciously. Do everything spontaneously for God. Don't think how much you have done, and don't suffocate your soul with a sense of the fruits of your labor. Then you will remain pure. Work generally dirties the soul because the ego demands payment, that is, the satisfaction of making an effort. It is necessary to keep this in mind. Purity is not so easy to achieve, but possible. It's not about purity of the body. The body is only an expression of consciousness, and it too can help egoism. The most important thing is the intention of consciousness. There our purity is hidden. That is the divine culture of love. Love everyone equally, Padre Pio's words. 2044. If one is a prospector, an inner Wolverine, one can expect loss of health, stress, conflict, no wonder. There have already been such saints in history as Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint John of the Cross, who lived a short life because their body and nerves could not withstand the strain. Jesus, by the way, also said, "The kingdom of God is won by violence." The health of the body is not so much important. More important is the soul. She must be fed with heaven's supplements. Otherwise it will go quite crazy, and with it, the body psyche. So you must do what you feel internally. Otherwise you will experience confusion of the senses. 2045. There is no need to tell yourself that you are perfect, talented, etc. This is not very cultural. It has nothing to do with the true divine theater of love. Total perfection in this body is not achieved. The body limits knowledge and love. So how can one talk about perfection? There will always be something to do in oneself. Besides, the play of consciousness is so fast, volatile, all-encompassing, that it can always experience something unpleasant. Then our egos will put out their horns. Let's hope the world doesn't see them, because we will cause rather astonishment and unpleasantness with them. And we are supposed to be love, not anti-love. Others should see us as understanding love without measure. This is the best of the best options. She saves the fastest. You are to be love itself. Padre Pio's words, 2046. Seek the essence of your consciousness without hesitation and free your mind from the donkey that is your body. Put your thoughts under the care of the intelligence of a humble and loving soul. Then something will change in your life. But don't think that by doing so, you will stop suffering. No, you will continue to have to live as you are living, but with a different consciousness. And this is most important for your well-being and the purpose you expect from the present and then eternal life. 2047. Recognize your soul, your mind, wherever you are. Fight your DNA with love because it is a crutch for you. 2048. You should know the taste of a clear mind. Until you experience this, your life will go in different directions, not necessarily good ones. If you give yourself to God and trust Him, you will solve the matter once and for all. 2049. Since we are human beings with a concrete physical body, we need movement for this reason. Physical work is a necessity every day. Otherwise, we will have a mental problem. The body needs to exercise physically. Block housing, lack of allotments. This is a serious problem. Youth sports, bicycles, swimming, etc. is a chore if you don't have a role and work on it. Young people who are connected with agriculture, the problem is solved. The worst is in the cities. Well, and married couples should often make physical love, not only for love, but also for mental health. This is a duty for the good of society, which is supposed to be peaceful, gentle, and tuned to physical and mystical love. I know that widowers and divorcees may have a problem with this. The church has neglected this area. It destroyed its heart and showed satanic laws, and this has plunged it. There is not enough warmth and tolerance in the church, Padre Pio's words. But it can be solved somehow, so that it is good, beautiful, and comfortable, with a sense of hope of heavenly delights. It all depends on us. The mystique of old age is more beautiful than that of young age. It's up to us to imagine, to plan our paradise on earth, and then in heaven. Love, peace of mind, and peace of bodily energy are the foundations of all worlds, including heaven. This is true even for 90-year-olds. One must not give up. In the cities there are dances for retirees, in the villages similarly. It is necessary.